The day my own daughter told me to leave. I didn't shout. I didn't question. I didn't even blink for a moment. Because sometimes the deepest pain doesn't make noise, it freezes you. Have you ever stood in a moment where everything you built suddenly feels like it never belonged to you? Where the person you gave your whole life to looks at you like a stranger? That day, I learned something most people learn too late. Money doesn't change people. It reveals them. That I still remember her as a little girl, running barefoot across the house, laughing for no reason, holding my hand like I was her entire world. Back then she didn't care about money, she didn't know what status meant. All she knew was, my father is here, so I'm safe. And I made sure she always felt that way. That I worked when I was tired, that I stayed awake when I was exhausted, that I sacrificed things I never told anyone about, just to see her smile. Because when you're a parent, your happiness slowly becomes someone else's future. But life has its own plans. The day she got that money, $33 million, everything changed. At first, it was small things. Her tone, slightly different. Her attitude, a little distant. Her respect, slowly fading. And that's how change happens. Not in one big moment, but in small shifts you ignore until it's too late. That I noticed it, but I stayed quiet. Because sometimes, you don't want to believe that the person you raised is slowly becoming someone you don't recognize. Then one evening everything broke. She walked into the room, confident, almost cold, and she said, "You need to leave." No anger, no explanation. Just a sentence that erased years of love in seconds. For a moment, I thought I heard it wrong. Because how can someone you carried in your arms one day ask you to walk out of your own house? But she didn't repeat it. She didn't need to. Her eyes said everything. And right there, I had two choices. That I could argue. I could remind her of everything I had done. I could fight to stay in a place I built with my own hands, or I could choose something most people don't have the strength to choose. Self-respect. So I stayed silent. Not because I was weak, but because I understood something powerful in that moment. When respect is gone, words have no value. That I walked to my room, slowly, calmly, like nothing had happened, but inside, everything was shaking. Every memory, every sacrifice, every moment we shared was replaying in my mind. That I picked up my bag. Not many things, just what I needed. Because when life forces you to start over, you realize how little you actually need. As I walked towards the door, I took one last look at the house. Not with anger, not with regret, but with clarity. Because sometimes you don't lose a home, you outgrow a place where you're no longer valued. And then, I stepped out. No goodbye, no drama, no tears in front of her. Because some pain is too deep to be shown. The door closed behind me, and just like that, a chapter of my life ended. But here's the truth no one talks about. Endings are not always losses. Sometimes, they are hidden beginnings. That I walked down the street, not knowing where to go. No plan, no destination, just thoughts loud enough to break anyone. Was I not enough? Did I fail as a father? Where did I go wrong? These questions, they don't leave you easily. They follow you, step by step, trying to pull you down. And if you're not strong, they will. But in that moment, something inside me refused to break. A voice, quiet but firm, said, "Stand up. This is not your end." And that voice changed everything. Because the moment you stop seeing yourself as a victim, you start becoming powerful again. That night, I found a small place to stay. Nothing special, no comfort, no memories attached. Just four walls and silence. And silence can be dangerous. Because when everything is quiet, your thoughts become louder. I sat there alone, staring at the ceiling. And for the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about anyone else. I was thinking about myself. Who am I without my role as a father? Who am I without the house, the responsibilities, the routine? And that question hit hard because most people spend their entire lives building for others and forget to build themselves. But that night, something shifted. I didn't cry, I didn't complain, I didn't blame her, because deep down, I knew blame keeps you stuck. Growth moves you forward. So instead of asking, Why did this happen to me? I asked, what is this trying to teach me? And that question opened a new door, because every painful moment in life carries a hidden lesson, and if you're strong enough to learn it, you become someone unstoppable. That I lay down, but sleep didn't come easily. Not because of the place, but because of the transformation happening inside me. Because in just a few hours, life had taken everything familiar away and forced me to meet the real version of myself. No titles, no roles, no attachments, just me. And that's when I realized something powerful. You don't truly know your strength until life removes everything you depend on. That night wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of a new one. A story where I wouldn't live for approval. A story where I wouldn't beg for respect. A story where I would rebuild, stronger, wiser, unshakable. Because listen carefully. If life ever puts you in a moment where you feel rejected, where you feel like everything you gave meant nothing, don't break. Don't chase. Don't beg. Because sometimes the people who push you out of their lives are the same people who will one day realize they lost someone they can never replace. And trust me, that realization is coming. The first night after losing everything is where most people silently break. Not in front of the world, not with tears anyone can see, but inside, where no one hears the collapse. Have you ever felt that kind of silence? The kind that presses on your chest, the kind that forces you to face yourself with no distractions. That night, I met a version of myself I had ignored for years. No responsibilities, no one calling my name, no one depending on me, just me and the truth. And let me tell you something most people avoid hearing. When everything is taken away, what remains is who you really are. I sat there in that small room, staring at the ceiling that wasn't mine, in a place that had no memories, no warmth, no history. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about providing, fixing, solving. I was thinking about surviving, but not physically, mentally, because the real battle wasn't outside. It was inside my head. Thoughts started coming one after another. Maybe I should have done more. Maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe I failed. And that's how doubt enters. Quietly, slowly, dangerously. It doesn't attack you all at once. It whispers until you start believing it. But something inside me refused to accept that story, because deep down, I knew I didn't fail. I gave everything I had. And sometimes giving your best doesn't guarantee the outcome you expect, but it still defines your character. I stood up, walked around the room, not because I had something to do, but because I refused to sit in weakness. And that's a lesson you need to understand. The moment you feel like giving up, move. Do something. Anything, because action breaks the cycle of negative thinking. I opened the window. Cold air hit my face, and for a second everything felt real again. Not the pain, but the possibility, because no matter how bad things get, life never takes away your ability to start again. And that realization is powerful. The next morning, I didn't wake up with motivation. I woke up with a choice: stay down or rise up. And here's the truth most people don't like. You don't need motivation to move forward. You need discipline. Motivation is temporary. Discipline is what carries you when you feel nothing does. So I got up. No excuses, no delays. Even though my mind was heavy, even though my heart still carried the weight of what happened, I moved. Because I made a promise to myself that night. No matter what happens, I will not lose myself. And that promise became my foundation. I stepped outside. The world looked the same, but I felt different. Isn't that strange? Nothing around you changes, yet everything inside you shifts. People were walking, talking, living their normal lives. And for a moment, I realized the world doesn't stop for your pain. And that's not a bad thing. That's reality. Because it forces you to move forward, whether you're ready or not. So instead of expecting life to slow down for me, I decided to catch up with life, step by step, hour by hour. Not rushing, not overthinking, just moving. I started reflecting, not on what she did, but on what I could learn, because blaming her would keep me stuck. Understanding the situation would set me free. And that's when I saw it clearly. Money didn't just change her behavior, it amplified what was already there. The impatience, the ego, the lack of experience. Because when someone gets power without preparation, they don't rise, they lose control. And that realization removed my anger. Because anger comes from misunderstanding. But clarity brings peace. I wasn't angry anymore, that I was aware. And awareness is a different kind of strength. That it doesn't shout, it doesn't react, that it observes, understands, and moves wisely. That day, I didn't chase comfort, I didn't look for distractions, that I faced everything. Every memory, every moment, every emotion. Because avoiding pain only delays growth, but facing it transforms you. Be why the second day, something started changing. Not outside, inside. My thoughts became clearer, my breathing felt lighter. The weight slowly started lifting, and I realized something powerful. Pain is heavy at first, but if you carry it with purpose, it turns into strength. Most people try to escape difficult moments, but the truth is, those moments are shaping you into someone stronger. That if you run from them, you stay the same. If you face them, you evolve. And I chose to evolve. That I started rebuilding my mindset. Not by reading something, not by listening to someone, but by talking to myself. Yes, talking to myself, because sometimes the most important conversation you'll ever have is the one you have within. That I told myself, you are not finished. You are not weak. You are not defined by someone else's decision. And slowly, those words started becoming belief, and belief creates reality. To be why the third day, I wasn't the same man who walked out of that house. I wasn't broken anymore. I was rebuilding, stronger, sharper, wiser. Because listen carefully, when life knocks you down, it's not testing your pain tolerance. It's testing your mindset. Will you stay there, or will you rise? And rising doesn't mean everything becomes easy. That it means you become stronger. Strong enough to handle what once broke you. And just when I reached that point, when my mind became steady, when my heart stopped reacting, when I finally found control again, that's when something unexpected happened. My phone rang, and everything was about to change again. Just when I thought the storm had passed, just when my mind finally found a little silence, life decided to test me again. My phone rang. Not once, not twice, but continuously, like something urgent was trying to reach me. I looked at the screen, and for a moment, everything inside me went still. Her name, the same person who asked me to leave without hesitation, was now calling me again and again. Now think about this. What would you do in that moment? Would you ignore it? Would you answer with anger? Or would you let your ego take control? Because moments like these don't test your emotions, they reveal your character. That I didn't pick up immediately. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because I needed to understand myself first. Was I still hurt? Was I still expecting an apology? Was I still holding on to the past? Or had I truly grown? The phone kept ringing. Each ring louder than the last. Not in sound, but in meaning, because deep down, I knew this wasn't just a call. That it was a turning point. That I took a deep breath and answered, hello. For a second, there was silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind filled with hesitation, regret, and fear. And then, I heard her voice, but it wasn't the same voice I remembered. That it wasn't confident, that it wasn't cold, that it wasn't distant, that it was trembling. Dad? Just one word, but that word carried years of connection and a weight I cannot describe, because when someone who once stood tall in ego comes back with humility, you can feel the difference instantly. She paused, like she didn't know how to continue. And in that pause, I understood everything. Life had already started teaching her. She finally spoke. I need your help. No long explanation and no excuses, just truth. And sometimes truth doesn't need decoration. That it just needs courage. I didn't respond immediately, not because I didn't care, but because I was listening beyond her words, her breathing, her pauses, her tone. Everything was different. And that's when I realized something powerful. Life had done what I never could. It had shown her reality. She started explaining T first, slowly, carefully, like she was afraid of her own words. Then everything came out, the people she trusted, the decisions she made, the deals she rushed into, all of it falling apart. Money disappearing faster than it came. Opportunities turning into traps. Friends turning into strangers. And suddenly, that $33 million didn't look like power anymore. It looked like pressure. And this is where most people fail to understand something important. Money doesn't solve problems. It magnifies who you are if you lack clarity. It creates confusion if you lack discipline. It creates chaos if you lack wisdom. It leads to loss. And she had all three missing. Not because she was incapable, but because she wasn't prepared. You see, success without preparation is like driving fast with no direction. It feels exciting at first, until you crash. As she spoke, I didn't interrupt. I didn't judge. I didn't remind her of what she did. Because at that moment, she wasn't the person who told me to leave. She was someone who needed guidance, and that changed everything. Because anger belongs to the past, but responsibility belongs to the present. She kept talking, her voice breaking at times, her words losing structure, her confidence completely gone. And that's when I realized, this wasn't just about money. This was about fear. Fear of losing everything, fear of being alone, fear of facing consequences she didn't understand, and fear can break anyone, and no matter how strong they look on the outside. I finally spoke, calmly, not as someone hurt, but as someone aware. What exactly happened? Simple question, but powerful, because instead of reacting emotionally, I chose to understand the situation, and understanding is what gives you control. She explained more clearly this time, details I won't forget. Mistakes that could have been avoided, decisions made in pride, not logic. Trust placed in people who saw her as opportunity, not family. And this is the harsh truth about the world. When you rise suddenly, not everyone around you celebrates. Some people calculate. They see your success, not as inspiration, but as access. Access to your money, your influence, your decisions. And if you're not careful, you don't just lose money, you lose direction. She had reached that point. And now she was calling the one person she once overlooked. Not because I had money, but because I had something she didn't experience. And let me tell you something that can change your life. Experience is a currency that never loses value. Money can disappear. Status can fade. But experience stays. It guides you, protects you, and when everything goes wrong, it saves you. There was a moment of silence again, but this time it was different. Not heavy, not uncomfortable. It was real. She wasn't pretending anymore. And neither was I. That's when I understood something deeply. This situation wasn't punishment. It was correction. Life wasn't destroying her. It was redirecting her. And sometimes, the redirection feels painful, because it forces you to face your mistakes. But without that pain, growth never happens. I didn't rush to give her solutions, because solving the problem too quickly would take away the lesson, and lessons are more valuable than quick fixes. So I asked her something she didn't expect. What have you learned? There was a pause, a long one, because that question forces honesty, and honesty is not easy. She finally answered, and in her answer, I heard something I had been waiting for. Understanding. Not excuses. Not blame. Understanding. And that's when I knew she was ready. Ready to listen. Ready to grow. Ready to change. And in that moment, my role became clear again. Not as someone who fixes everything, but as someone who shows the right path. Because real help is not about solving problems for someone, it's about teaching them how to avoid those problems again. But this time things would be different, because respect once broken is not given back easily. It is rebuilt. Slowly, carefully, intentionally. And I was ready for that process. Not for revenge, not for validation, but for growth. Because listen carefully, life will test you in ways you don't expect. It will take you to moments where your emotions, your patience, your strength, everything is challenged. But in those moments, you have a choice. React or rise. And, in that call, I chose to rise. And what happened next changed everything. 3 days ago, I walked out of that house with nothing but silence. Now, I was walking back in carrying something far more powerful: clarity. But let me ask you something before we go further. If someone who once disrespected you suddenly needs you, do you go back the same person? Or do you return transformed? Because this exact moment separates people who react from people who rise. I didn't rush, I didn't run back the second she called, because urgency belongs to panic. And I was no longer operating from panic. I was operating from control. Every step I took towards that house felt different. Not heavy, not emotional, not confused, focused, because I wasn't going back to reclaim a place. I was going back to redefine my presence, and that changes everything. When I reached the door, I didn't knock immediately. I paused. Not because I was unsure, but because I understood the weight of this moment. 3 days ago, I left this place as someone who was dismissed. Today, I stood there as someone who understood his worth. I knocked. The door opened, and for the first time, I saw her. Not as my daughter, but as someone standing in front of her own consequences. Her face had changed, not physically but emotionally. The confidence she once carried like armor was gone. The pride in her eyes had softened into something else: reality, and reality humbles everyone. She didn't speak immediately, neither did I, because some moments don't need words. They need awareness. We walked inside the same house, but it felt completely different. Not because the walls changed, but because the energy had shifted. 3 days ago, this place felt like it belonged to her. Today, it felt like a lesson waiting to be understood. We sat down, and no distance, no barriers, no distractions, just truth, and truth is never comfortable. She started speaking, slowly, carefully, choosing her words, like each one carried weight. I made mistakes, simple sentence, but behind it was everything. Because admitting mistakes is the first step towards growth. But most people never reach that step. They blame, they justify, they avoid. But she didn't. And that told me something important. Life had already started shaping her. She explained everything again, this time clearer, more honest. No excuses. And I listened. Not as someone who was hurt, but as someone who was observing, because when you remove emotion you gain perspective. And perspective shows you the truth. Every decision she made had one thing in common: speed. Fast choices, fast trust, fast confidence. And that's where things go wrong. Because success that comes quickly requires even slower thinking. But she didn't have that guidance. Not because I wasn't there, but because she stopped listening. And that's another truth you need to understand: advice only works when the person is ready to receive it. Before, she wasn't ready, now she was. And that changed everything. I didn't interrupt her, I didn't correct her, because this wasn't the moment to prove anything. This was the moment to rebuild, and rebuilding requires patience. When she finished, there was silence again. But this silence was different. It wasn't heavy, it wasn't awkward, it was opened at a space where something new could begin. I looked at her, not with anger, not with disappointment, but with clarity, and I asked her something simple. What do you want now? Not what went wrong, not who's to blame. What do you want now? Because the past is already done, but the future is still in your control. She didn't answer immediately, because that question forces you to think, not emotionally but intentionally. And that's where real change begins. She finally spoke, not confidently but honestly. I want to fix everything. And that's when I knew this wasn't about money anymore. This was about growth, because wanting to fix things means you're ready to face reality, and facing reality is where strength is built. I leaned back, took a deep breath, and said something she didn't expect. I'm not here to fix your problems. She looked up, surprised. Not because she didn't understand, but because she expected something else. Immediate help, quick solutions, fast recovery. But that's not how real growth works. I'm here to guide you, I continued, because solving everything for her would bring temporary relief, but guiding her would create permanent change. And that's the difference most people ignore. Easy solutions feel good, but they don't last. Hard lessons feel painful, but they transform you. From that moment, everything shifted. We didn't jump into fixing finances. We started with something deeper: mindset. Because if your thinking doesn't change, your results won't either. I asked her questions, not to test her, but to make her think. Why did you trust them? What made you decide so quickly? What did you ignore that you shouldn't have? And with every answer, she started seeing things clearly: patterns, mistakes, blind spots. And that's the power of reflection. It shows you things you couldn't see before. Slowly, she started understanding something most people learn too late. Money is not power. Control is. If you can't control your decisions, your emotions, your impulses, then no amount of money will ever be enough, because you'll always lose it. And this time she was listening. Not because I was speaking louder, but because life had made her ready. And that's the key: timing. Advice at the wrong time is ignored. The same advice at the right time changes everything. We created a plan. Not rushed, not emotional, clear, step by step. What to fix first, what to avoid, what to rebuild, and more importantly, how to think moving forward. Because strategy without mindset fails, but mindset with strategy wins. Hours passed, but it didn't feel like work. It felt like transformation, because something bigger than money was being rebuilt. Trust. Not just between us, but within herself. And that's the hardest part: trusting yourself again, after making mistakes. But it's possible if you're willing to learn. Before I left that day, I looked at her one more time, and I saw something different. Not confidence, not pride, something stronger: awareness. And awareness is the beginning of wisdom. As I walked out, I realized something powerful. 3 days ago, I left this house feeling like I lost everything. Today, I walked out knowing nothing was ever lost. It was just being realigned, because sometimes life removes you from a place, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Prepare you to return stronger, wiser, and in control. And if you understand that, then no situation in life can ever break you again. There's something strange about life. Just when you think the story is over, it quietly begins writing a completely different ending. And most people miss that moment, because they stay stuck in what happened, instead of stepping into what's possible. Days turned into weeks. Not dramatic, not perfect, but steady. And sometimes steady progress is more powerful than fast success, because this time nothing was rushed. Every decision was slow, intentional, calculated, and no excitement, and no shortcuts. Just clarity. And that alone changed everything. I watched her closely, not as someone judging, but as someone observing growth. Because real change is not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand attention. It shows up quietly, in better decisions, in thoughtful pauses, in controlled reactions. And she was changing. Not into the person she was before, but into someone better. Someone aware. Someone who understood that success is not about how much you gain, but how wisely you manage it. And that shift is rare, because most people don't learn from success, they learn from loss. And she had faced both. There were moments, difficult ones, situations where things didn't go as planned, times when pressure returned, when doubt tried to come back. But this time, she didn't panic. She paused. She thought. She responded. And that's growth. Not avoiding problems, but handling them differently. And I realized something powerful during those days. You can't protect someone from every mistake, but you can teach them how to rise after making one. And that lesson stays for life. Our conversations became deeper, not about money, but about mindset. Not about fixing things, but about understanding things. Because once you understand the root, you don't just solve the problem, you eliminate it. One evening, we sat quietly. No stress, no urgency, just a calm moment. and she said something I'll never forget. "I didn't lose money. I lost myself." That sentence, it wasn't just honest, it was awakening. Because that's what happens when people chase success without direction. They gain everything and still feel empty. But the moment you find yourself again, everything starts making sense. And that's what she was doing now, finding herself. Not through money, but through awareness. And that's when I understood something deeply. This journey wasn't about losing or gaining, that it was about becoming stronger, becoming wiser, becoming someone who cannot be easily shaken. And that applies to you too. That if you're listening right now, and you feel like life has pushed you down, understand this: you are not being buried. You are being planted. And there's a difference. Because when you're planted, you grow. But growth takes time. It takes patience. It takes struggle. It takes moments where you feel like nothing is happening. But something is. Something powerful. Your roots are getting stronger. And one day, you will rise in a way no one expects. But only if you don't give up. I looked back at everything that happened. The moment she asked me to leave. The nights I spent alone. The call that changed everything. The return. The rebuilding. And I realized something most people never understand: nothing was random. Every moment, every pain, every decision was shaping a bigger outcome. And that outcome was growth. Not just hers, mine too. Because I changed as well. I stopped expecting. I stopped holding on to control. I stopped defining myself through others. And that freedom is powerful. Because when you stop needing validation, you start living with purpose. And purpose gives your life direction. Today things are different. Not perfect, but real. And real is better than perfect. Because perfection is an illusion. But growth is truth. Respect returned. Not because I demanded it, but because it was understood. Trust rebuilt. Not overnight, but step by step. And our bond, stronger than it had ever been. Not based on dependency, but on understanding. And that's the strongest foundation any relationship can have. But listen carefully. This story is not about a father and a daughter. It's about something much deeper. It's about you. Your strength, your mindset. Your ability to rise when life tests you. Because life will test you. It will put you in moments where you feel rejected. Where you feel unappreciated. Where you feel like everything you did meant nothing. And in those moments, you will have a choice. Break or build. React or rise. Blame or become. And that choice will define your entire life. So if you're going through something right now, if you feel like you've lost something important, don't rush to fix everything. Pause, reflect, grow. Because sometimes what feels like loss is actually redirection. Redirection towards a better version of yourself. And when you finally reach that version, you'll look back and thank every moment that broke you. Because it didn't break you. It built you. So stand strong. Stay patient. Trust the process. And remember, your value does not decrease because someone fails to recognize it. Your strength does not disappear because life becomes difficult, and your story is not over until you decide it is. Now here's what I want you to do. Don't just listen to this and move on. Take a moment. Think about your own life. Where are you holding on to pain? Where are you waiting for validation? Where are you afraid to start again? And ask yourself, what if this is my turning point? Because it could be. Right now, this moment, the moment you decide to rise. If this story connected with you, if it made you think, if it gave you even a small shift in perspective, then don't keep it to yourself. Share it, because someone out there needs to hear this. Someone out there is going through their own silent battle, and your one action could help them stand up again. And if you want more stories like this, more real lessons, more powerful reminders that push you forward, make sure you stay connected, because this is not just content. This is growth. This is mindset. This is transformation. And your journey is just getting started.